presentation for today, before we do move on to the discussion section, is going to be by Damien. And Damien is from GRAAD in Burkina Faso. And Damien will be discussing labor markets and youth socio-economic inclusion in West Africa, public policies and new challenges from COVID-19. Damien, over to you.
Thank you for joining me to this important meeting. I'm Damien Lankoande from Burkina Faso. So as you can see, it's a French-speaking country in West Africa. I'm from GRAAD. GRAAD means Group for Research and Applied Analysis for Development. We work on different areas of research, including youth issues, employment, violence, and opportunity, economic opportunity. So my English maybe will be very huge for you. You have to listen carefully. I will speak French English, but I'll try to do my best to make you understand what I want to share with you. So my presentation, can you see the screen?
Yes, it's come up.
Okay. My presentation, as Steven said, right now focus on labor market and youth socio-economic inclusion in the West African region. My presentation consists of mainly 5 points. Okay. First, the background, and the second attempt is related to an overview on youth inclusion policy through employment. We'll also talk about strength and weakness, and then through impact of COVID-19 on youth employment. We'll end with challenge from COVID-19 pandemic. In terms of overview, let me say that in West Africa, we have many factors that has been recognized has huge constraint for youth social and economic inclusion. Among these factors, we have access to natural resources like land. We have also funding, and employment is the element on which we will focus today in my presentation, because this issue is one of the biggest in terms of youth exclusion in our region. In most of the country in West Africa, can see through the data of African development is 2 to 3 times higher compared to the adult situation. Per year, between the 12 million graduates who enter the labor market, only 3 million finally will get a job. So as you can see, this is a big gap in terms of employment for youth in Africa. So given this situation, in the past recent year, youth social and economic inclusion comes at the heart of West African policy public development policy. This is one of the ways chosen by the decision maker of the region to dealing with unemployment situation of youth. And this presentation will analyze the strength and weakness of the policy implemented and discuss about the new challenge raised but by this pandemic of COVID-19. In general, looking to our research and literature review, we have three main domains in which our policymakers in West African region have actually worked. The first one is education, and the second is funding issues, and the last is partnership with private sector and NGOs. At the education level, many things has been done in terms of policy, and we have a policy based on mandatory education and free access to school. The objective behind this type of policy is to make sure youth will get knowledge and skills to access more easier to the labor market. So we also have diversification of training offer and professional promotion, especially in speaking countries, I would say Francophone countries. We have in the past, the old past year, the education were more rely on general education, and the objective of this type of education is mainly to give to the public administration good workers, and to make labor market affordable for youth. In this recent year, in all the country, most of the country, there is a kind of promotion of professional training, and that help youth to have a better access to the market. We also have in this area specific skills building programs, such as in Burkina Faso and Senegal. We have this program. We wish the objective is to identify an area of a market and try to give to some selected youth specific skills to respond to the need to that part of the market. And through this kind of program, you can see many youth accesses to the market and get jobs. On the second point, I mean funding, we have mainly a setup of dedicated funding mechanism for youth. So I was saying at the beginning that one of the constraints for youth to access to the market or in terms of conclusion, funding is a big constraint. So to help youth to fund their project or to start entrepreneurship activities, in many countries in West Africa, dedicated funding program mechanism have been set up. In Burkina Faso, we have an example of FEJ, what we call FEJ. It's a fund for all the initiative of youth with an age under 30 years. And in Senegal, you have also a special program set up by the president to promote innovation among youth. And we have the same. You have the same program in Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Nigeria, where we have also specific program for innovation, especially dedicated for youth activities. And at the end, one type of the policy we can see among all the policy implemented in West Africa region, we have the partnership with the private sector and NGOs that consist mainly in paid traineeship and also fiscal facility for youth employment. In terms of strength of these policies, I want to say the existence of the policies itself is a strength, because it recognizes, I think, the constraint raised in the first presentation by Stephen, the need to take in account youth in the policy, development policy. So this existence is already a strength for me. And the second one is the practical implementation tools development. If you compare the whole PAC policy and the last 10-year policy, you will see a big difference. And the last policies are very better equipped with implementation tools in terms of youth inclusion through the labor market. And one of the strengths also is the existence of this dedicated program and funding mechanism. And you see, it's difficult for youth to access to classic financial system. So setting up this program was a good solution for government to make sure youth in the country can have sources where he can demand financing for his activities and get it when he meet the condition. So it's a very important solution for development of entrepreneurship among youth. And in general, you can also raise that has a strength is good progress in girl education, because today through the ODD, DGI, the general objective of development at world level is to make sure we have such an inequality between women and men. So the good progress made today through the policy in terms of girl education is a strength for me. Weakness for me, and it's especially for Francophone countries, I think education remains very theoretical and disconnected from our reality. I mean, this is the result is a weak and sometimes very weak link between market need and education output. So we have many, maybe this situation can explain the data I talked about right now between the 12 graduates that arrive in the market and just the only 3 can get the job, maybe because for this issue, it's a weak link between market need and education output. And also we have weak of scholarship policies. I mean, this is a big constraint for youth to access to quality education and maybe great school, recognized university around the world. And at the last one is the lack of originality. For me, most of our policy are copies of external situation in terms of economy, implementation, and we need to relook this policy and make sure it comes from our reality, and then make the labor market more affordable to youth. Today, as we know, to reduce the spread of the pandemic, West African country, as the other countries, have set a lot of measures to support maybe to support the consumption or enterprises, etc. And I think Stephen already raised this issue. Given the weak financial capacity of the state in West Africa, this may lead to a weak capacity in policies that support youth inclusion implementation in the maybe short, mid, and long term. And in another hand, you see, COVID-19 has had many negative consequences on enterprises. Sometimes closure of activities, loss of capital, revenue drop, etc. And today, the current data tend to show that this situation is affecting more youth compared to adult situation. If we look a case study in Burkina Faso, we did a survey on 730 enterprises. The result is that we have 22% of enterprises which were obliged to stop their activity, and among these 22% of enterprises, 60 were youth enterprises. And we also know that the average of enterprises leader in informal sector in Burkina Faso is 38. And as you can see, it's higher than the limit given by African Union Charter in terms of definition of youth in our continent. But by market closure, the COVID-19 impact youth enterprises for 3%, and compared to adult, this is just 46%. So a difference. This is a gap of about 70 points in terms of percentage. And fruit common transportation, the impact on youth enterprises, this measure impact 72 enterprises from youth, and compared to adult enterprises, this is just 48%. And in total of the employee fire rate, we note that 95% of these employees are all youth. That means that just 5% of employees were adult among fire employees. That means that case shows us a practical example showing that COVID-19 is increasing the inequality toward youth. And the challenge is to limit this situation in a context of low financial capacity, because a big and important part of public fund is now used to fight against COVID-19, and we fear this will affect negatively policies that aim to support youth social and economic inclusion. We have maybe it's the same for funding mechanism, because we are talking about money, and a large part of this public finance are now used for COVID-19 fighting. So it can be have a negative impact on the program implemented in terms of youth finance funding. Today also, COVID-19 came with many disruptions in education systems all the country. and many credible opinion today think that will end with an increased school abandoning. And in our countries, in the region, ICT, access to ICT remain a big problem. And the question is, what will be, or what is the big way to deal with this, the better way to deal with this situation?
Damien?
Yes?
You've got just 2 minutes left.
Okay. For me, one of the way to dealing with this situation maybe is to put the youth inclusion issue at the F of recovery policy. And as we can see, maybe ICT and green job can be also key area for innovation and job creation for youth, and then a more important inclusion of youth in the economy. I think also government should also try to learn from innovation and opportunities created by COVID-19. And I think this can be a very, very useful for labor market diversification and so new job creation in the market. So thank you for your patience, and I hope you were able to capture something. Thank you.